This is obviously the earliest we've had this press conference, and signed a class, and everything went very smooth. So maybe we've been missing out for a lot of years, but things went very smooth, and we have 20 signees right now that I'm very excited about. We went to 12 different states. We signed 12 offensive players. It's going to be, 9, it's 11 right now, will be 12, and 9 defensive players. And so we have 20 in the boat right now. We anticipate one more coming in the next couple hours. And if it takes longer than that, that's fine, but I anticipate getting that done, and it'll be a big addition to the group we already have. So just collectively appreciate the work, once again, from our assistant coaches. These are relationships that have been formed sometimes within the last year. A couple, really strong additions in the last, couple months, and some, have been going on for a long time, years, as I mentioned. So, been a lot of work by a lot of people, and very good people, very good players, and it excites me to add them to the class, to our team. And, as you know, the year didn't go the way we wanted it to, and I have been working around the clock to try to build the team for the future. And these 20, hopefully soon to be 21, will be a big part of that as we move forward, and a great foundation. I think everybody looks at, we all know we want a better football team next year, and I think there are players on here that will help us. How many? We will see. That's up to them and the work that they do between now and their arrival time, but they're very good players, very athletic guys, and some difference makers. I'd like to congratulate Quiz, from Danville there, being the Horning Player of the Year. We're excited about adding him along with all the other guys. So it's a good group. What's going on with the program? There's going to be a lot of questions right now, guys, and there's so many moving pieces that I really will keep that short, but I will just say this, very optimistic, very excited about the core, building this team from the core of guys that we have here, and then obviously adding these players, and then hitting the portal as well. But it starts with the great players that we have in our program. There will be some names on there that we don't want to lose. And, I told you I anticipated that. That's part of it. I don't think there's a team in college football that's not going to lose a few guys that they want on their team. But there's going to be so many players in the portal. It's almost, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be, for the players, I hope it all works out, because there's going to be so many players in this portal. Just talking to my colleagues, throughout the business. But, that's good and bad. So I'd like to keep, again, my concentration has been the quality, the really good people, the really good players in our program. We know we need to build that foundation with them, and then branch out from there.
Well, you mentioned you thought there are guys in this class who could help you next year. How do you gauge that when you're assessing your portal needs? Because obviously you don't want to put too much pressure on the freshman right away.
Agree.
Do we need somebody at this position or not? Maybe a freshman can help us there.
I think, the players see opportunity sometimes, and so, that may help you, with some difference makers, and then it's up to them. That is, a fine line, because, sometimes guys come out of nowhere, that you maybe thought you knew you wouldn't sign them if you didn't know they were a very good player, but they're ready sooner than you thought. And sometimes vice versa, and sometimes those are the conversations you're having with guys that maybe want to leave. It's like, hey, back in the old days, we really, developed, and you're on track, and you're going to be a really good player, but sometimes they just want to go play right now, and that's okay. Guys that, that are in our developmental phase, but they want to go be the guy somewhere, that is their decision, and that's just the changing landscape, and we're totally okay with that. Continuity is very important, but in today's world, you got to do the best you can year to year. And let's be honest, we didn't have a very good year, so I'm pretty excited about change. You know what I mean? We need some positive change, you know?
Mark, you've talked a lot about, especially defensive backs, a lot of it's just instincts. Does Martell's Carter, does he have those?
He does. He's a guy that I do believe he could play, and play early. I like his instincts. I like his demeanor. I like his athleticism. He is a guy that I have on my mind that, could come in and play.
So how do you fast track that for somebody he's playing here Friday?
Yes, he is. Yeah.
To playing in the
Yeah.
SEC like that?
Yeah. It's going to be a fast process. So they changed the rule. I'm not allowed to watch him Friday, so you let me know how he does. But no, it's going to be fast turnaround for a lot of these guys. We have somebody we're I cannot talk about him. No. Let's take that back. Cam Miller is playing tonight for a state championship in New Jersey, which is an odd night to be playing for a championship. I said, big day for you. You sign basically the new national letter of intent and go play a state championship game. So we wish him luck tonight.
Keeping quarterbacks is harder than ever in this day and age, which you had to replace your own room last year. It looks like they're going to have 3 either redshirt freshmen or true freshmen on the roster at that position. How do you balance that for the future? And do you need an older guy to? Yeah,
I think we have to go get one, you know what I mean, just to have some stability, in there. Because when you're counting on the 2 true freshmen coming in, I just haven't seen them yet. Not at all. I mean, we've watched them throw and believe in them, or we wouldn't sign them. But I think we all know you need to have at least 2 or 3 quality quarterbacks, to be on your roster.
Stoops, 4 tackles and 4 defensive linemen, a lot of big players with physical traits.
Yeah.
Is this something you're trying to put an emphasis on, casting a wide net, so you don't have to go for these rare positions in the transfer portal as much?
Absolutely. It's in there, develop, guys that, you just want to bring these big guys in. That's something that, you've seen us in the past, and everybody that's, played us and coaches have commented, we've always been a big physical team. And I didn't always feel that this year, whether it be injuries or, just things happen. Sometimes we're not at full strength, but, we got to have those physical traits, and you got to have some length.
You talked about Eric Wolford's ability to get players. What do you think about this offensive line, particularly Stray?
Yeah, Stray is a guy that we've loved from the beginning, and he's just a great person. He's got a great personality, very athletic, has the size that we're looking for. So he's another guy that we're very excited about. But yeah, I mean, we're working hard to get the O-line fixed, for next year and for the future.
You
guys ended up not able to bring a running back in this class, and the room got kind of thin due to injuries and a few other things this past year. Does that affect how you approach that position in the portal, or does it just make you reevaluate? Just talk about that position.
Yeah, I think that we with Jamarion having such a good year, as a true freshman, and JP, is a guy that showed a lot of ability that we liked all through preseason, and then in the 4 games that he played, so we have a lot of confidence in those 2. I feel like that Chip wants to come back, and he should be at full strength, and then we can also go add there's a lot of running backs in the portal. And it's not even open yet, by the way, but I think we all know. And there's just there's a lot of players out there. So we'll have the option to go get some too.
Mark, you mentioned Quisenberry at the top there. It seemed like maybe that was kind of a slow play. He's always going to face questions about his size. What about him finally convinced you guys?
It's not finally. We always have watched him. He's a player that's not afraid to come over here and camp and compete. And so I just think his versatility, his toughness, just his overall athletic ability. I just wanted him on our roster.
Vince has brought in tons of tight ends over the years. Is Skinner How does he maybe stack up to some of those guys, or?
He's probably different. Vince is over there. I guess the big dog could come up here and talk next, because I'll be glad to step off. But Mikel he's different, I would say. You know, when Vince could talk about him in a minute, but he's different. He's a different build. He's a different skill set. You know, he's a guy that's a great mismatch. He's the type of player that could line up as a wide receiver. You know, and it's important to be able to be multiple that way. You know, where you could have a guy that you know, if you could put a defense in conflict, whether it's 11 personnel or 12 personnel, and he kind of fits that mold, and we'll see where his body goes, but he's a very athletic guy.
At this point, are you guys pretty set on where you think the roster is going to be in terms of guys at least going out at this point? Or are you
No, I think there'll be a couple, you know, I think there'll be some guys that go in that hurt, you know what I mean, that let's be honest, but again, I'm very confident in you know, getting the roster right.
More so, do you have a sense already of where that stands?
Yes.
Not necessarily announced, but
Yes, yeah, I do, and it's fluid, you know, it's fluid, you know, it's going to change. I've met with all day, every day, you know, and still have more to go, you know, but met with a good core group of players already, you know, coming through my office, and still have some more to go.
Where can you compare the skill set of the two quarterbacks in this class?
Yeah, it'll be interesting. You know, Stone. There's so much film on him. You know, he's thrown for so many yards. He should break the record. I don't know if he plays Friday or Saturday. Friday. Yeah, so he'll probably break the all-time yards in Pennsylvania. I think he already has the touchdowns, and so he's just got so much good film out there, and just a ball player, you know. And so he's just a guy, you know, it just doesn't take long to put on the film, and just like the way he plays ball, and obviously throwing for that many yards and that many touchdowns, you know, he could distribute the football. And then Brennan is a guy that he came into camp, and we watched in person, you know, and I don't, you know, no disrespect, I don't mean this in a bad way, but he probably didn't play on as good as a team, you know, and but was impressive with a skill set in person.
It looks like you're probably headed for a 7th wide receiver coach in 13 years. What's key to getting that position locked down?
Well, I was pretty stern with my contract and with my discussions a year ago, and that didn't hold up. So I got to keep on working that. You know, I thank Tequil for the work that he's done here. I thought he is a very good coach, good young coach, and you know, I was pretty demanding that I needed at least a 2-year commitment out of that, and put a pretty large buyout on it. But some schools weren't afraid to write a check. You know what I mean? So I wish him luck. I do appreciate what he's done. I think he's a very talented young coach, and I wish him the best. It does, you know, kind of hurt for our continuity that I am looking for. The great thing is I have some young guys in that room, and GAs, and some guys that are pretty impressive, that can easily handle it for now, you know, and teach, and, you know, be on the same page, which is great. You know, Bush has a strong background in receivers as well, coaching them, you know, at the highest level, and so he could do quarterbacks and receivers and get them on the same page. But we have good coaches in there, and I'll find another good one, you know, for that spot.
Very good. All right.
Thank you all. Nobody panic. We're going to have a better football team. All right.
Well, just open up by saying it's been a long day. Having meetings with our own players, and been here since 6 a.m. making sure that the signatures came in, and I think we got 90% of the class in, so let's go. The questions.
I guess I'll start with Skinner. The guy you're bringing into your room. What do you like about his game?
Yeah, you can tell Skinner's probably the best athletic tight end I've signed since I've been here. Learned about him from a buddy in Charlotte that I played with the Panthers. He was coaching down there, and he kind of told me about him, and then seeing he was committed to Cincinnati, started watching film, and I was like, there was another kid that that we were very high on that we were about to get. He went to another school. And sometimes it's kind of like with Josh Allen. I'm not comparing that situation, but we had guys decommit when we took Josh Allen. Now, this kid was a high 4-star kid. Found out he can run. He's a 4, I think he's like a 4.46 kid. He's about 6'4", about 228. I know South Carolina really, really wanted him. Ohio State, a lot of other schools came in on him, and we just built a relationship, came down the spring. Me and his dad hit it off, and I'm telling you, that's one of the, I was holding my breath all the way till your signature came, because you just don't steal another kid out of another SEC school, and they really wanted him. So I'm very, very excited about him. He's going to be a good player.
Just overall, how do you feel about that tight end room? I mean, all those guys have eligibility left, but Tanner and Kamari both announced today they're going into the portals. How do you feel about the depth heading into next year?
Have you watched some of them other guys that's in that room? Have you watched that freshman that's, 6'5", 245? I mean, of course, when I recruited the last couple of years, I knew I put a lot of good tight ends in that room, and even though we playing 12 personnel, guys, they want the ball, and I told them, when I met with Kamari, I said, hey, I understand there's going to be a lot of people that's going to want him. He's 6'5", 252, and he's a really good young player, and, he wasn't ruling out that he wasn't coming back, but like I said, I got to do what I got to do on my side too. So, right now it leaves us with Caddis, Wooly, McHale, and we got to get probably going to have to take one in the portal. Right now, I'm pretty having Caddis and Wooly in there. That's two pretty good tight ends.
So you do feel good about Caddis? So there was obviously a recruiting event over the weekend that will lead fans to question what exactly is going on.
Well, that's a totally two different situations. Y'all know who he is, his brother. That was like a dream school he wanted to go to, and he played very well. And like, let's be honest, I don't hide, and our season wasn't that great, so it allowed people to start coming in the last minute in doubt. For us to sign all these guys and keep these guys signed with how the season went, I think was very impressive, because I used to do that against other schools, and so, no, me and Caddis got a real good relationship. I'm very close with his mom and dad. When I talked to his brother, I just said, hey, I wished him well, told him I loved him, and, you never know. Some things come full circle sometimes.
Speaking of that, when just other teams are prying away, especially a guy like Martell's card, where that's been happening for a long time.
Yeah.
How do you keep those guys locked in even when the season doesn't go according to plan?
You gotta have relationships, and you gotta have, good relationships with their parents, people who's close to them, but more than them, the prospect themselves. And me and Martellus got a really good relationship. Me and his dad, who's a, high school coach. Some kids, and for that young man, and like everybody was at this kid all the way down to the wire. I'm talking about some pretty impressive schools, and he just stayed locked in. He was kind of pissed. That's what I'm telling you, what type of, we getting a good kid with him. When this one kid, decommitted, he called me, I was asleep, he called me about 12 after midnight and was like, Coach, what is this all? He wasn't happy. And he said, that's okay. That's okay. He said, we gonna be all right. And so I love his leadership. He's in the state championship. The last time I felt like this, when I signed the kid, it was Mike Edwards. And so I think this kid has great leadership. He's good on both sides of the ball. He has good ball skills. He's tough. I remember Stoops said he's the type of kid that he thought can play in the secondary when he was at Miami. That's how good this kid is, and he's a better person. Comes from a really good family.
So we ask you every year who your sleeper is. So who's the guy who's not getting enough attention in this class?
It's crazy, because I should say he's a 4-star, but for some reason, Quentin Simmons is from the same school as Ryan Nichols, and You know, they had the one kid that's the #1 player in the country now, another wide receiver that moved on. He's a 10.6, 10.500. If you look at him his junior year, I think he had 9 kickoff returns for touchdowns. He kind of reminds me of Barryon. He's going to be a really good kick returner here. And he is fast, and he comes from a very good program. I will say, keep an eye on him. I think with his return ability, he can really, you know, with his return ability, he can make an impact as a freshman, like Barryon did. I'm not saying he's, well, that's yet to be told because this kid is pretty. He can go. He's a good kick returner. So I'll say him.
Vince, you've had a really good relationship with the fans. Obviously, a disappointing year. Some fans are doubting why kids might want to come here in the portal, but also that. What's the message that you would just tell the fans to reassure, hey, like, we're coming for you guys next year to make sure this doesn't happen again? And by you guys, the league, not the fans.
Yeah. Oh, you can bet. I was about to cut. You can bet your, you know what, that we coming. But I would say about players coming here. When we took over, it was 2-10. And it was a real bad situation, and we recruited at a high level. Recruiting ain't gonna never stop, and you will be amazed when that portal open up how many players would choose to come here. You know, I just think if you look at this class and look at some of the guys we signed, along with, you know, fill-ins. Like I never want to say, you know, we just going heavy portal, but fill-ins to fill into certain situations. Recruiting ain't gonna never be no issue here. I can put everything on that. We will get the players. I mean, we lost a kid, and I really love that kid. The kid is really a good kid, but how can you not? You cannot ignore what our season was like this year. And you know, just like I told some of them coaches when I was recruiting before, when we were at 2-10. I know who you are, and I'm keeping receipts. And you can bet you know what, this ain't over. So, you know, you better enjoy it now because, you know, we had 9 winning seasons here, and it feels kind of weird that you're not going to go to a bowl game. You know, I was telling my family, I said I could finally probably celebrate Christmas relaxing because we was packing on Christmas Day, packing the day after Christmas. So this would be a nice little enjoyment of Christmas, but I don't plan on being at home on Christmas the next couple of years. This whole team won't, so, and the staff. So, you know, looking forward to what we're about to do with this roster.
How does Quisenberry translate to the SEC at that size? Like, how does that work?
You know, I almost bust out over there when you said something about all of a sudden we took him. Let me tell you about Quisenberry. Everybody compared people to Wandale. It was like this guy won. This is the closest kid to Wandale Robinson that I ever seen. And what really told us, it kind of gave us the signature to say, okay, this kid can do it. They went to Ohio, and at that time, St. Ed's was the number 3 or 4 team in the country. And that's up in my neck of the woods. And when they beat them, I was shocked. I mean, Hattie's gonna get mad at me. I was shocked. I was like, what? Because remember, Douglas just went the year before that and played a team less caliber. When I seen that, I went to Stoops and said, they beat St. Ed's. And he was like, what? And what he did, the reporter up there told me, who I trust very much, he said he was the best football player on the field. And he said them coaches was like, how is this kid getting out of the state of Kentucky? And we talked, and then he came to camp and just really just put on a show. I mean, this kid is very, in this state, but this kid is underrated nationally. This kid is he reminds me of Wandale. He's actually bigger than Wandale coming out of high school. I think this kid has a chance to really, because he's very balanced. He got low balance. He's powerful. I mean, they played him in every position, and he was very good at every position. So I'm excited about him. He is the closest thing. Everybody throw out, but he is the closest thing to Wandale Robinson. Even Wandale said he is. So I'm excited about him.
There's a couple guys in here who are pretty new to football, big kids, Atkins, Javion Campbell. So how do you get those guys caught up to speed to where, you know, even if they are a little bit slow cookers, they cook a little bit faster than normal?
Campbell's cooking right now because he had legit committable offers to everybody in the country. What everybody was offering him, I mean, I had to even pinch myself like, man, I must be pretty good. He turned down this one. What I really like about that kid, and I know Stu and Brad like about him, he's very powerful. My nephew John, this is a small little story. So my nephew John, who lived with me, this is about 6'9", they played a team in Frankfurt. And I was like, y'all lost? And they said, yeah, John kind of got, he kind of got beat up by this forward they had. And so I didn't go to the game. I didn't realize that was Campbell until he told me when I started recruiting. He said, I played against your nephew. And I said, oh, you the dude that beat the crap out of him. I said, what you do to him? He said, I gave him 20 rebounds and 25 points. And so I was like, well, you pretty good. So I think this kid, he's exactly what you look for. And then Atkins, if you've seen Atkins, and I know you've seen him in camp, that's what SEC linemen look like. I mean, he's like Malachi. He might be bigger than Malachi. He's about 6'9". He's about 302, 305. All it's going to take him to be here 1 year, get under weight training, start eating right, and I think you're going to have a kid that's really should be playing on Sundays if he keep projecting what he's going to go, because he's a very good athlete. He can bend. He's smart. So I'm very excited what he's going to turn, what he will become.
Y'all talked a lot about what y'all learned from past portal mistakes. So how much has the process of evaluating portal talent changed in the football facility?
Well, I told you my philosophy, and what I said was, you need to treat this like the NFL. When I'm dealing with all the NFL guys, they come in, they send their scouts, then they send their player personnel people. Then when it's time to get drafted, they do kind of background checks on guys, because if you're going to spend money on guys, you need to know what you're getting. I'm not saying that's not what we did, but I think a lot of schools take these portal guys and they really, if they ain't had no connection to them, if they didn't recruit them out of high school, they really don't know what they're getting. And I just think, even talking to Mark, just doing a better, thorough, background, digging into their background of who they are. This is, whether we want to say it or not, this is like pro ball. So you better start treating it like pro ball. When these guys are making money and these guys are getting, they making more than some coaches. So you better do your homework and see who you're bringing in your building, and see who they were at the other school, and go back to their high school. Hell, when I got drafted, they went all the way back to my middle school. The Raiders did. I remember my gym teacher had told me that the scout came to the middle school to ask what type of person I was. I mean, we talking middle school. So I just think you got to do some homework, and I'm not saying like we didn't know who we were getting, but you got to know who these guys are that you're bringing into your culture. That's what you got to do. Or it can turn out, because you look at all these schools that go the other way, Florida State, they bought in a lot of guys, and I'm not speaking for them, but they bought in guys. They were good the year before, they bring in some guys, and then, it just happens. You got to do your homework.
How was that familiarity? Because, obviously, with Wandale, that worked out really well. You had that connection before. Some other guys you brought in that you're good at high school, bigger schools, haven't panned out as much. How do you balance, knowing a guy and still knowing whether or not he can be what you need?
Well, like you said, Wandale, and then even Will, there was a connection. Liam knew Will. Liam knew, up in that area. I mean, you just talk about the impact guys, like some of the guys we brought in. They have, guys that were being recruited by some of our guys on our staff. So they did a home visit. They knew when they was in that home what the structure was. I think if you haven't done that, you really have to find some kind of way to know who these guys are. Because, I mean, I look at it like this. They may play well somewhere, or they may be, a backup somewhere. They got good film, but do you really know who you're dealing with? So that is challenging, because you only got so much time, but you at least got to do some kind of research to know who these guys are. And that's what we are doing right now.
Do you feel that this season, attacking the portal, you guys are in probably the best situation you've been in terms of money, structure? It's not a huge secret. It feels like we were a little late to the coming all the way in, but it seems like you guys have a really good foundation with the 15 club and everything now. What does that look like in terms of how you guys are viewing this season and getting quality players, but also top guys that can change you next season?
Yeah, I think I know our support is where it should be now. Not that it wasn't like that in the past. You just got to learn. You got to just keep learning how this thing was going to go. But I'm very confident from Dr. Capelotto to Dr. Monday to Mitch, Mark Hill, everybody that's involved. The support is where we need to be now, and we're ready to go and tack it. I will say this, though, it's like, because it's there, you don't just, I use a phrase like Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. There's a lot of chocolate out there. You don't just keep going getting a whole bunch of chocolate. Know what's there for you. Know this is what you need to fill in on certain rosters, because we still got to build our roster from high school up. So you got guys that we took in the 22 class, 23 class that are still there. Now these are guys that we need to fill in, and I really believe we got the support to go do it. Not I believe, I know we do. Excuse me.
A couple more. Anyone else?
Vince, what do you think of the quarterbacks in this class? I know you have a relationship with Brendan for a long time.
All I know is this. I mean, Stoops talked about Stone, and I think Stone's a really good quarterback. But Brendan, from where I'm from up in that area, Gahanna ain't been to the finals and all that in D1 football. And when he was a freshman, he took him to the first round. Then he took him to the second round. Then they lost the third round. This year was his probably worst team. But when you watch him, I say this all the time, he reminds me of Thad Prescott a little bit, his release, how he is. He's a very smart kid. He's a coach's son. And I know this, Liam watched him. The hardest thing when you bring a quarterback to camp and then you see the OC, both OCs watch them, they say, wow, this kid is pretty good. So I think we got two really good young arms, young guys. You got to have them. And, when it comes in, these guys will have an opportunity because both of them coming in January, I believe. So they're going through spring ball, and I think it's going to be good for both of them.
Vince, just having the offensive coordinator locked in, and you're going into the portal right now, how much is that going to help you and the rest of the staff?
That's a great question, man. A lot of times we've been going in. He's a smart dude, right? He likes some of the smartest stuff, man. But I'm going to say this. A lot of times you be going in blinded because, we didn't have a coordinator. Going in and also having the same system this time says a lot. And, I think Bush's system, when you really look at it and you look at it on film, you're going to, for what we're trying to target and get, I think it's going to be a good selling point. And you got to have continuity. I mean, you guys been covering this. This will be the second year going in with the offense for 2 years, and I think that's going to be a plus. It really is.